Welcome, W.A.R. We are resilient here on site.
Your W.A.R. Good morning.
But we're taking care of business. Not only when we're in Massachusetts but beyond. As you can see, Travis got a nice background behind him today.
Oh yeah.
He is on mission. Travis, you want to let the folks know what you're doing, where you're at?
So I'm in SeaTac, which is between Seattle and Tacoma. I'm at a conference doing veterans panels for a science fiction conference. And as a bonus, I got to meet some of the people going to Military CreatorCon 2026. So it has been, as Mikey says, it's been on the, we've been Oscar Mike, we've been on the move. And so this is why we've adjusted the time of our, wartime, but, we're here now. And thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. And I saw a little bit of the programs that you were on yesterday. I saw you were doing your thing with the blanket, getting it done. Looks like you're getting
done, man. I'm doing it right now.
Absolutely. Now, for you, are you able to do things better when you have like something occupying your mind and able to chat better with that, or is it just?
It doesn't matter. I can be sitting here with nothing on, quiet music, or a movie or TV program, or like we are now, and it's still gonna, stitch by stitch, we're gonna get this thing going.
Excellent. That's awesome to see. And seeing everything going on, and like hearing some of your thoughts on different topics that we don't get to talk about all the time here on W.A.R. Was nice to see, hearing your views on cybersecurity and things that are going on in your field at work, and how taking somebody who's got the experience over somebody that has the degree. That was something that really stuck with me from yesterday. When you were chatting, and how that is the way that the world should be versus the way that it too often it favors that piece of paper over somebody that's got that experience.
Look, I'm all about credentialing. I'm all about, education. I'm all about, making yourself more proficient at your job. But there's just, if you've had, 3 to 7 years of experience in this field, you've gone through a couple audits, you've gone through implementations and migrations and security issues. You just have it in spades over someone who's just coming out of school with a piece of paper. There's just no way to quantify. You can't. I've never had anybody sell it to me that that's a better option. I'm sorry. And there's nothing against that person who went out and got their master's in a particular field. They certainly, have set themselves up for success later down the road. But I need someone who a lot of times who has, practical experience.
Absolutely. And, the big thing that, you see is, you gain that experience and you get the knowledge, especially in a field like yours where that knowledge is always changing. That product is, not the same that it was, 3 years ago when you took your last exam for it, things like that. And, that piece of paper, is only as good as how long you've had it, and what training you got to get it. And,
Sure.
If you got somebody that's working in the field, it's better to always have that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're one of those professionals dealing, and regardless of what field you're in, if you're one of those professionals mindful of what's changing in your respective job field, and you're, pivoting on that, you're gonna, keep yourself going.
So Irish says, I absolutely agree about the experience. School teachers theory, work teachers practical, daily life.
For sure, for sure. Well, thanks for joining us.
And absolutely. The other thing too, I want to hit on this week is the situation with Iran is absolutely imploding, and we're just trying to figure out what's going on where. And I do want to at some point during this this quick live that we're going to do today, go over and look at the if you type in Iran in Twitter and it'll show what comes up. Like you can see some are AI videos, some are crazy, some are real, and you just don't know what's what anymore. So it's like it's really tough to be able to take a hard stance on what's going on when so much fake information is being spread by both sides.
So Irish, I'm a litigation paralegal, got my GED, everything almost done at work, no more than most women with masters at work. Yeah, I mean, and you had to, work hard to get where you are. So it's gonna stick with you more. So good for you. A litigation paralegal is nothing. I couldn't do that job. Very nice. Yeah, on Iran, man. I mean, no doubt it's a bad situation, right? I mean, we talked about this before. Bad situation across the board. I mean, my reading about what the Ayatollahs did when they came in the 1970s, and let's just be honest here, the whole world has kicked this can down the road for years, and now I mean, you have a small minority of the Iranian people, really running the country.
Mm-hmm.
But if we were told, and I think you remember this, Mike, a couple of weeks ago, that their military capability was nil. I mean, they have no Navy, no Air Force, very little in military infrastructure. But for someone who doesn't allegedly have a whole lot militarily wise, they have shut down the world's oil production in that region, and they're dug in now. So unfortunately, I don't see another outcome for this unless they want to send in ground troops. I don't know how else you can bomb them. I just don't. I mean, maybe because again, to your point, it's hard to tell what's really going on over there.
Yep, and like you said, you see these videos and you don't know what's real versus what's fake.
Right.
And so I'm setting up right now for 2 videos to show what they have out there and versus what is actually happening. All right, so let's see if this will work. Want to add a source. Just here. Share screen. All right, so this is the Iran has shot down 2 aircraft.
Yeah.
Target hit. Target destroyed.
You look at it and this looks like a video game. It doesn't look like it's actual real life.
That's not real.
And then let's go to the other thing that they've been sharing too. Hey Dodo, how are you today? And then the other thing I've seen being shared a lot today was this thing. It looks cool, but it's not really real life. It's definitely AI created this thing. Where you can see these explosions aren't real. Like, and it's just, you know, you see all this stuff, and it's just, you know, none of it, you know, none of it is, you know, advancing, you know, either side's, you know, story. And it's just to see it all out there, and, you know, they've got these, you know, crazy things about, like, you know, underground bunkers, and, you know, and then you see, like, the aftermath of the, you know, plane on the ground, and, you know, that it was actually hit. And that's the only, like, thing that I've seen that, you know, shows the proof.
Right.
And the fact that, you know, we were on a search and rescue mission for, you know, the pilots. You know, last I saw, it was one was, you know, recovered, and one is still MIA.
The military.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Okay.
Those guys are great. I don't know if you've chatted with them, Travis, or not. They've got some great shows. The Green Logbook, Military Retirement Podcast, a good connection of streams and hosts that work together to spread the message to retirees and those getting ready to transfer.
Nice.
I know that, like I said, you know, seeing everything that's happening and knowing, you know, what we went through with Iraq, you know, we definitely don't want to see the same thing happen again. And, you know, a lot of the stuff, you know, is just very, you know, deja vu. And, you know, it's just, we didn't want to see this happen. Now you're seeing, you know, top executives being fired. And it's like, you know, not knowing why they're being fired, or, you know, how they're being fired is, you know, another situation that's adding to the stress in the whole situation. Like, you know, when you see top officials going at the time that, you know, we're making these decisions to go, you know, boots on ground, or add more troops to beef up security in the area, you know, it just, to me, that's very contradictory. You know, you can't really, you know, have both.
For sure. You know, there's just no easy way to do this. There's no easy way to parse this. But, you know, I'm like, wait a minute. We were told, hey, I'm not going to get you into any new wars. And, you know, whether he can appreciate this or not, you know, this is going to escalate to where it's going to become a war real quickly. And again, we were told in one breath, hey, you know, their military capability is pretty much gone. And I don't know what they have over there, but it's enough that, you know, I mean, when you can shoot down an A-10, you know, we either went where we shouldn't have been, we had bad information, or they're a lot more capable than we thought they were. Because again, you know, I read that, hey, all their air defense capability is pretty much gone. All their naval capability is pretty much gone. And if their naval capability is gone, then how are they able to keep that straight locked down? Oh, they've got, you know, land-based missiles. Well, we were told they were all taken out. Like what is going on that, you know, it just seems like from the outside that there may have been some overestimations of capability. And the thing is, I'm like, you know, I definitely, you know, commiserate with the Iranian people and their plight, the ones who've had to leave their country. It was a beautiful country, a seat of knowledge, learning, you know, cosmopolitan, you know, progression before the Ayatollahs took over. So I get it. But, you know, Mike, this isn't our problem. We don't import oil from Iran. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, I know that Russia and China need Iran, but, like, you know, why are we doing this?
And just to let Dodo know, I put them in a timeout because I pushed the wrong button. So didn't do that on purpose. I'll, you know, fix it either during the stream or right afterwards to figure that one out. What's crazy is, you know, we have the situation going on, and, you know, you said some things you just can't tell what's actually happening, and, like, to me, that's the hardest part. And, like, hearing, like, my family talk about it, I have family members that were like, you know, well, you know, I believe we had to go in there and clear out the area and show that we're the mega power that we used to be. That we have to show that we got the biggest set of brass ones out there, and like all this, and it's like, to me, I don't see that happening. I don't know like how we can be seeing two polar opposite versions of the same thing.
I just, man, there's just a lot I don't know. There's just a lot I don't know. And, I'm hesitant to sit there and make assumptions or guess, because that's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going, one, on what I was told, and two, what I'm seeing. And, this is where it's not adding up. And I'm not sure the timing. I'm not sure, how this is going to play out. To me, if we really wanted to be like in this regime change mindset, we could have done this to Cuba, liberated Cuba, and we'd have, Venezuela and Cuba in our pocket, and, start really pushing back on Russia and China's influence in the, America, North and Southern Hemisphere. But instead, we've gone over and picked another fight in the Middle East, and I'm not sure what's going to take to win. And
so
the other thing too, I mean, maybe I'm remiss for saying this, but I'm also like, hey, and I love seeing the Iranian people celebrate in the streets. It was very cool. But I'm like, okay, there's going to come a point where, okay, if you want your country back, here's how you take it back. Go take it back.
Yep. And there was something I saw the other day that was like, there's one man that knew about this long ago and talks about the spread of everything, and that they knew that you had to allow the people that are locals to that area remain locals to that area. You can't allow people to come from outside and try to take over the whole area. And that's what you see that's going on with Israel doing. And they're pushing into Lebanon, they're pushing in Iran. They're trying to be the mega power in the region. And we supported them financially through the military, and into this situation where it seems regrettable for us to be involved right now. And for what is the end state? What is the end goal? And how does that affect us? And that's what it seems like I'm not seeing, is how
Right.
this situation improves American day-to-day life, how it improves our country, how it makes us greater. It doesn't. And that's what we're seeing. And the guy that said we need to check this and make sure we keep people in line was JFK. JFK, he knew what was going on, and he said, back when he was president, that hey, we need to make sure that the people that live in that area are able to still maintain their area and their presence, and their people in the population, even though we just moved this other group and culture into the area. And that's ever since that everything's been uneasy, and and then knowing that JFK was killed, you can go down the the conspiracy rabbit hole on that too, saying was it for X, was it for Y, was it for Z, and you've got everything there, and then you see Epstein jailed and then killed in prison, and the ties to Trump and all these other billionaires, and all these people with wealth, like Scrooge McDuck, that they could swim in a giant room full of money. And it's just these people having a stupid amount of money, and it's like when you get to that point where you have that stupid amount of money, like it seems like just no matter what you do, evil takes over.
Well, it certainly seems like there are the rules for thee and not for me, and that's a very dangerous place to be. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. But and juxtapose that, right? The other side of the coin is, if we're going to send troops into war, and it looks like we effectively have now, we have people getting shot down, people getting hurt, people getting killed, then I don't want to hear how we're going to change. Like we got to talk about the VA loan situation next week. That's what we want to talk about. I'm like, I had high hopes for Secretary Collins when he came into the VA, and it just seems like, and no one's been able to, and I want to support the prior one who got the PACT Act through, and this guy, but it seems like there's this underground current of what can we take away, and what can we do, and how far can we go without the veteran getting upset or in the know. This VA loan change to foreclosures is going to change everything. And to me, it's like, just don't send us to war if you're not going to commit to taking care of us when we come back.
Yep. And, the big thing too is, them saying they're going to, tax, the second time you use it or the third time you use it. It's like, they're going to add these, issues and, take away your benefits from it. It's like, then, you're not holding up your end of the promise. If you're changing the contract and the terms, well after, you need to grandfather all those who have been in and are doing it. You need to let people know before they sign the contract the rules have changed. The VA isn't an internet app-based game that you just go on and every time you log in, terms of service have changed. You just click it, accept whatever the hell it's saying.
Right.
And it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't just be accepting whatever because we go to the VA for our care. And by doing that, we null and void our benefits that should be given to us.
But that's my thing. Like, don't ask me to tell people to go in the military if you're going to look at ways to nickel and dime them and slowly chip away at what's there when they get back. It shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way at all. And it appears more increasingly that it is. And it's like, okay, Secretary Collins is the one calling the shots, but he gets his marching orders from the president. And this president promised us that, hey, veterans were going to get taken care of.
Yep.
And we tried the prescription thing first. I mean, how crazy is that? You're on a disability, percentage for X impediment. You're following your treatment protocol, and hey, we're seeing progress. Now we're going to change your rating, and oh well, too bad.
Yeah, that's mind blowing. Like, you're basically telling veterans that they need to to put their life at the hands of a whammy, like press my luck, and say can I do with no medication and do better financially being aided, or am I better off being somewhat healthy with the chance of the medication not working and lose that financial security I have.
Right.
And I feel like down the road, you're going to get a lot of vets, if that had happened, you would have had a lot of veterans, hit double whammies where, both they lose the money and then, the medication stops working for them after a certain time, or their condition worsens and they need to get a different medication and that's not working for them. And, now you're asking them to reapply to the whole system again to, prove, that their current rating doesn't, sustain, the factors in the day-to-day life that they have.
It's disappointing.
The other big thing too is, their Richard Starr Act, again, being blocked by, a single senator saying we don't have, the $9 billion over 10 years to be able to fund that. But, they shot down a jet that was $100 million, just for the aircraft itself. And, then you got the training for the pilots, you got the fuel costs, the operational costs for it, I'm sure, you're looking at, billions of dollars, for a fleet.
Well, that's the thing. And this is what my point. You can't sit there and tell me there's no money to take care of the veteran now and pay into things like the Restore Act, and then sit there and spend the same amount of money in weeks doing this war. And again, I wrestle with it because I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, okay, this was coming to a head regardless. They were building nukes, we know that. They were building long-range missiles, we know that. Okay, great. But this was ill-conceived. I'm just not seeing where this is working out the way that they were telling the American people that it was. I mean, we were sat there and told, like, hey, we pretty much knocked out any military capability they have. And obviously they still have any. I mean, what they had to do to shoot down an A-10, when was the last time an A-10 got shot down?
Yep. Here's I'm going to share an infographic about the cost of the war. This is, what I could find in a quick search. So, 1 month of the Iran war, Operation Epic Fury, spending up to $22 billion, with losses accounting to $4 billion. Daily strikes to over 10,000 targets, $9.42 billion. Air defense interceptors, $10 billion. Combat losses, $4 billion. Over 800 Tomahawk missiles launched, $3.06 billion. Over 30 heavy bombers sorties, 266 million. Total estimated cost, $26.74 billion. And the source is CENTCOM, CSIS, the Wall Street Journal, Juntaries. And that's of March 28th. So it just shows, if we have that kind of money to be spending, daily and, monthly, we have that $9 billion to take care of our vets and make sure that the 54,000 veterans that were medically retired early due to their combat, ailments and injuries should be able to collect their, military retirement.
Because it's just becoming clear. Like, why am I going to sit there and tell? And I hate being this way because I believe in a strong military. I believe that the military has done me, good, even though I didn't serve in combat. I wasn't deployed, but like I was telling, Jason yesterday and Tara, what the Marine Corps gave me, it has paid dividends throughout my entire life. But it is a hard ask or a hard sell for me to sit there and tell somebody who's between the ages of 17 and 25, this is a good thing for you to do. When, I'm not saying you're going to get necessarily hurt every time you serve, but man, if you do, it doesn't seem like there is a commitment to make sure you're okay. And the reason I'm getting so fired up about this is because other groups of people move to the front of the line with a lot lower barrier to entry than you or I do. And I love this. Well, we can't show our ID to vote. Well, every time I go to the VA, guess what I got to do? I got to get out my VA card to show that I've got business there. Otherwise, they won't see me, period. That's just the way it is. When I went to the VA for the first time, I had to show my ID to get in. I mean, and that's just the way it is. So if I've got to show my ID and you've got to show your ID, it should be the same for everybody. Like, what's the big deal here? So it's just, I'm trying not to get jaded right now. I'm trying to see this, but I'm like, and I think you said it right. Like, there's so much internet right now. Even back in Gulf War I and Desert Storm I and some parts of Afghanistan, you can be your own war correspondent right there with your cell phone, no problem. It's really something else in this day and age. And so I'm looking to see what's reality before I give my final judgment. But I'm like, man, we were told that all their capability been knocked out. Well, no one told them that, and I guess it's their homeland. They're going to defend it. And if we one more thing, let's just say we do send ground troops in. Are we
Mhm.
going to let them do their job? Are we going to put all these rules of engagement on to where we send them in with their one hand behind their back?
Yeah, that's the tough part, too. And the other thing too, when people saying, well, Congress is supposed to pass it. Congress is supposed to pass it. Well, Congress voted on it, and Congress chose to not have a vote to vote on it. So they, essentially took themselves out of the conversation. So you can't use that argument anymore that Congress needs to pass this stuff. And obviously when you look back to Iraq and Afghanistan, that after 9/11, the Patriot Act basically gave these powers to the government that nobody was really understanding and and seeing.
Right.
So what do you what's on the agenda today at the con?
I got a panel at 11, and then I've got a panel in the afternoon. Let's see here.
Can folks check out online anywhere, or is it just for in person?
They're going to have if they're recording it, they're going to have it up later. They don't like doing that. They want you to come to the con, and it's really cool. I'm almost saying, we should see if there's an equivalent in the Boston area or New York area, because I was going to say, one thing that the reason I kept coming back to Northwest Con. So the story is a lieutenant that I served with in Alpha Battery. I was in Charlie Battery. She's like, hey, like 4 years ago, hey, I want you to come out next year to Northwest Con. I'm like, Northwest what? And, she's like, there's a lot of veterans there. I'm like, yeah, sure, right, whatever. And come to find out, man, there's all kinds of veterans at these cons who are super talented individuals, male and female, regardless of what service they're in. One of the panels I saw yesterday is a guy who, was an electronic warfare officer on a B-52 and has a very different view of warfare than, say, you or I do. People who've gone into nuclear energy, people who've done consulting on movies and stuff. So it's a really fascinating place to come and meet other veterans. And there's a lot of them there, and not just in the military space because there's military tracks, but people who've written books, consulted in movies, done other things, and in podcasting. So we might do some recon. There's got to be, if Seattle can have a con like this, there's got to be some equivalent in Boston that we could see if we could go to.
And if there's not, man, why don't we look about start it?
Well, that was the other thing. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. Maybe there is a con in Boston and they don't have a military track, and maybe, we could create our own.
So, Bill Default, I'm all for inclusion. Will drones qualify for VA benefits post-Iran conflict?
Well, I mean, I know why he's doing that, and it's actually a good point to raise, right? It's amazing to me seeing how drones are deployed in a combat area. It's not going to be like it was, 5, 10, 30 years ago. You're going to have a bunch of drones doing what, thousands of people could do for a lot less time, effort, and money. And if it's going to be like this, maybe we should look at drones and other bots, if you will, to cut the cost down.
Yeah. And, you got some of these drones right now. It's a guy going into a trailer in Arizona, and he's going over and he's flying missions in in Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Afghanistan, whatever country he needed that day, and he's out there operating. It's just it's wild to think that at the end of his shift he steps out the trailer and he's back in the States.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then hey, Elfish, just bobbing to say hi. Good to see you live. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And, Travis, thank you for, being flexible and, being able to switch up and show, do this on a Saturday morning for the SITREP. And, everybody, have a good Easter weekend. That's your holiday celebrated, Passover, if that's yours celebrated. Just be safe out there. Make sure if you're drinking, have an Uber, no need to, get a $10,000 fine and lose your license this weekend. And just
happy Easter, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely. We are W.A.R. We are resilient.